Welcome to this episode of the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom Show. I'm your host, Lauren Foster, happiness teacher and founder of Be Happy First. And I'm so happy to have with me today one of my sister authors from The Art and Truth of Transformation for Women. Welcome, Nora Yolles Young, hypnotherapist. And we're going to talk about so much magic today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lauren. It's fantastic to be here and share this space with you. And we're going to have fun.
So very, very excited. You know what? We were talking before about having a being able to share a link, and now that page has disappeared. So
we'll just do it after.
Okay.
Totally fine. Yeah, it'll get out there.
It will get out there. And I'm not very good at looking at comments and things like that of people watching. Anyway, I get all immersed in the interview myself, and so
I get it. That's more fun anyway. And, you know, we get to just have a conversation where we're sisters in similar tribes. We're in the book together. I mean, we have so much to connect and talk about and share.
Yes, we do. I'm so happy. So tell us about you. How did you wind up where you are, and what's your biggest love right this minute?
Oh my gosh, so much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a healer, and I'm now, as you are, a international best-selling author, so contributing to this book, which was a fantastic experience. I'm also a coach. And so right now my focus is getting my work out there, really just helping people own their soul truth and getting to a place where they can really get to the place where they no longer need to be small, and they can just be who they really came here to be. Yeah, that's my passion.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, how beautiful would this world be if every single person understood that they were not created by accident? That,
oh my gosh,
we were all here for a purpose, every single one of us.
It's so true. And right now, me and my colleague, Jennifer Catlin, we're embarking on a study researching womb regression, and not in there'll probably be some data that could be statistically analyzed, but really we're doing these sessions with people as case studies to really create more of an understanding of the powerful work that happens in womb regression, or in utero regression. That's why I say womb, because in utero does not flow really as easily. But what we find in that work is you can access your soul's intent from the womb. And so the implications of a soul knowing and having access to what their soul was intending before they even were conceived is so powerful. And so we're looking at that whole gestational process and through to the actual birth into this current life. And it's really exciting. So I actually have my very first research client today, and we're going to be filming it. We're going to be recording these sessions. So get ready. There's going to be some cool stuff coming out.
That is so fascinating to me. All of this stuff, you know, everyone who's familiar with my work is we're very much a now and forward type of movement here at Be Happy First, and that, you know, we can't go back and fix those people. We can't go back and change those things. But what we can do is use that information to make a different choice moving forward. But having said that, I'm so fascinated by other people who do look at things in a different way. So go back even further before the womb. Let's talk about what. So it sounds to me like you believe that the soul is fully formed before it even makes the decision to come here as a human. Is that right?
Absolutely. Well, and fully formed, it's relative, right? We're always expanding and growing as souls. And my work and my belief is that our souls are interwoven with divine source, and they're sort of formulations of more and more focused consciousnesses. And so what makes Nora is part of my soul, not even the whole aspect of my soul. and that I'm a soul, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and having a human experience, what we find is an intentional thing. Now we can get into the nuance of that and talk about, just sort of not having a lot of intention as a soul, or having a lot of focus intention. But do you want me to talk a little bit about my history and what brought me here, or do you want me to just launch into the regression work and why it's so powerful? I could go in a million different directions.
Well,
so what interests you?
I really love that you can share firsthand your own experience with visiting past lives and sort of the knowing of things that you experienced before you were Nora. And so I would, if you want to share that, I would love that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And in the anthology, I write about some of that insight that's come over time, accessing past life information and integrating it into my life. And so that, I think my chapter is the dark gives structure to the light. And what that talks about is our shadow work, and how accessing past lives where I was not the most high integrity characters, nourished my understanding of my work and my activism as a person who works with uplifting the consciousness of the planet here. And so just having access to who I was, I had, I'll want you to read the chapter, but needless to say, it's some pretty dark stuff. And coming into the awareness of knowing a different version of me, but still knowing that it's me, is a pretty weird experience. But that's why this work is so powerful, because it's you're remembering an aspect of self that is undeniable. And sometimes in hypnosis or going back, there's not 100% certainty, but there is that experience where you can access true awareness that is yours. And we don't, in the hypnotherapy community, some people wonder, well, is this made up, or is this actual fact? And so there are many instances where things can be verified historically, where people remember past lives, where they remember names and dates and dynamics that are playing out, and the characters that are in those lifetimes, and they're literally verifiable historically. That happened to me I was the practitioner in a training to become a Life Between Lives practitioner, and the client was, it wasn't me, sorry. It was one of the other students. This happened when the professor, not the professor, but the trainer came in and said, this was a historically verified fact that one of the students had gone back to a lifetime during the Revolutionary War and said a name and said dates and details. And it was verified that the trainer went and looked it up right then and there, and it was verified. That is rare though. And that's not, and the reason I think it's rare, it could be probably more common if that is what's important to the practitioner to ascertain. People can access that. But from a transpersonal regression hypnotherapy point of view, where I'm completely client-centered, it's not always necessary. We're not here for a forensic read on the life that needs to be verified in a court of law. We are looking for healing opportunities. So is this information that's coming forward beneficial to the life experience moving forward? And that's why it really does tie into what you're talking about, because shifting perceptions on a subconscious level, or even a superconscious level, or accessing wisdom that's available from a superconscious level, helps create more strength, resilience, and confidence in the lifetime moving forward. So it can make that story that may have originally been told in a very limiting way more empowering and feel more resonant when told from a empowered point of view. And all of that can happen so seamlessly in the subconscious mind that a person can shift without even necessarily making the choice to change the story just actually evolves as they heal on a subconscious level. So it's beautiful, seamless work.
Okay, so and we're gonna delve more into the specifics of hypnotherapy and how that works and what it's good for and all that. But I want to get a better understanding of your point of view about past lives. So, I mean, how I believe, like you, that we are eternal. We are spiritual beings. We were never born, never died. We have always been here and will always be here. So, that means that we could have visited this planet many, many times, or other planets, or had any number of experiences. Am I right? So
Absolutely.
100 years ago, did I have one life that I was living 100 years ago, or were there 5 people that were living 100 years ago, and that energy somehow got combined into the unique combination that's me? How does
Into the
that,
collective? Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really powerful question. And I think my caveat to that is, in the human experience, we're operating with a small bandwidth of awareness versus a complete, full, infinite bandwidth of awareness. So I think, however it contextualizes comfortably in the person's mind is I think the best starting point. But when you do this work and you start to navigate space and time, and you go, when you're doing regressive work, whether it be to an early childhood memory, to the womb, to other lifetimes, or just exploring the spirit realm in non-physical, quickly you run into the dynamic of space and time and what is happening. Is it happening in a linear fashion, or is it happening simultaneously? And I think the consensus is that it's happening simultaneously. However, or just, maybe even not putting such a fine point on it to say simultaneously, it's happening differently than we perceive time in the human experience. And so then it becomes a question of, is the consciousness joining with other consciousnesses? Like, is my past life truly mine and mine alone? If we're all one, as many spiritually oriented people would believe, then you would have to then say that the me is also the one, is the whole. And so my past life could just as easily be your past life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are those who will say, we come in to each life with a different combination of selves and consciousnesses. So perhaps even the consciousness that is the soul me that I'm accessing in a trance state or a hypnotic state is a conglomeration of other souls that would at some other point in time in my soul experience be a different conglomeration. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's an exercise in nimble thinking and just allowing all of the possibilities, because in this work, being right is less important, I find, than having resonance with what is flowing through. And I think a lot of the healing arts are aligned with that mentality, because there's an orthodoxy of empiricism in this culture that honors scientific empirical knowledge over the perceptions and experiences of others. That's what I see. And I don't mean to judge it, but I just think it's one piece of the puzzle that is a very cool and important piece of the puzzle. And there's more. Right.
It's almost like the masculine and feminine way of thinking and creating, whereas here we have proof and step-by-step and pragmatism, and in the feminine side we have nurturing and magic. Mm-hmm. The feminine way of creating. And I always, and yeah, there are always going to be skeptics that are going to go, and just let them do their thing. It's it's what is serving us in this moment and in these beliefs. And it feels to me like the soul that is Lauren, what was did have experiences other people, or maybe animals, or maybe blades of grass, or that energy is
Sure.
energy, and it's all everywhere. And it's beautiful and fun to contemplate how
Yeah,
that evolves and how it might evolve in the future, and how impermanent this earthly experience is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And it can be just in that moment of awareness that is the only interesting, important part. Like, we don't have to contextualize it or make it have meaning other than the experience right in that moment.
Right. Okay. So now that this brings me to a point, and we're still on the past life regression thing. And I know we get there by hypnotherapy, and we're going to talk more about that. But
Yeah.
under what circumstances would a client benefit from? So, I mean, I might come to you and go, I just want to see for fun.
Mhm.
I just want to explore.
I definitely get those people. Yeah. That come for curiosity's sake.
Yeah. Don't have
Yeah.
anything to solve, but other people are needing this for various reasons. What would those be? And
Well, that's a really good question. And it absolutely depends on the person. Often, people will come for curiosity, and depending on what shows up in the process of getting into the past life, sometimes there are things that need to be navigated before they can enter a past life. And that's the most important thing, because the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the healing wisdom of the soul mind, will not work to create an opportunity to visit a previous lifetime unless these primary healing opportunities are accessed and shifted. And then it sort of paves the way. So sometimes people need to sort of work with this current life and the dynamics that are playing out, if they're showing up as limitations for them. And what will happen is the mind will block going into sometimes people can go into the womb because the process is current life, early memories, and then into the womb, and then into a past life. And the past life, well, and if you're having a life between lives, then you do a second or a fourth step, which is the life between lives, after the past life. But people, depending on what shows up for them in their regression to that time frame, we just take whatever comes forward. And then there are people who have been doing this on their own, or are highly spiritually sensitive and open, and they can literally just close their eyes and be there. So the full range presents itself. People who have had zero experience with hypnosis and are just getting to a place where they can sense, turning their introspection inward and having awareness in the body, is a first step. Just having that awareness outside of the intellect or the executive mind is a really, for some people, it's a huge step. It's like huge. And then people who have been meditating for a while, or have much more sophisticated spiritual tools, will, can, do phenomenal things that I've never seen. And so there's really no traditional, I mean, I guess there's a standard like format, but the way it shows up when the spirit realm becomes a part of it, those sessions become extraordinarily shamanic in their presentation, and often, wisdom that comes from other planets, other dimensions, information that the planet as a whole is facing, and what we're traversing, conceptually, where we're at in this stage of our evolution. Really profound stuff can come through. And so it's such an honor to be a witness to these basically channel downloads. They're beautiful to witness, and people through those sessions will often identify their true soul's purpose in this lifetime, because they'll basically be shown, if, when they're ready, which is also an incredible honor to bear witness to someone accessing their purpose and mission here on the planet.
Great. Okay, so we kind of started off in the advanced mode. Way far.
Just launch right into it.
So let's go back to the very beginning and give us a layman's explanation of what hypnotherapy is and what actually is going on under hypnosis, and give us the basic kindergarten explanation.
So the mindset that we're operating with in our conscious day-to-day experience is like our executive mind, and often we're utilizing primarily just the intellect. But we have, and I think Bruce Lipton has this statistic, that 40 bits of data per second are being processed in the conscious mind. The subconscious mind, by contrast, is really the back end to our operating system, and it's totally unfiltered and open and experiencing massive flow, massive bandwidth access. But we're not conscious of that. And so that's all going in behind the scenes. And the statistic for processing that is 40 million bits of data per second. So 40 versus 40 million. And I hope I have that correctly. If I don't, let me know. But it's a huge difference. And so we also start to become programmed in this human life experience when we're still in the womb. So around the second trimester, the soul consciousness starts to become more integrated with the consciousness of the baby. And baby's consciousness is mom's consciousness. And so there is no self yet, it's just mom. And so depending on what mom is going through, programming is starting to happen. And so hypnosis is a frequency of mind that is natural to the human experience. And we go in and out of the frequency of mind that is hypnosis naturally throughout the day. So if we are just waking up, we're falling asleep at night, we're taking long drives. And, when you get to your destination, you're like, oh, I'm here. That's the frequency of mind, talking on the phone, watching TV. So we have daydreaming is a big one. So when we're in that state, we're highly suggestible. And so from the age of being in the womb till about 7, a child's mind is in an open hypnotic state all the time. And so those little seeds of the programming are being sprinkled then. And so that's why regression is very powerful also, because we can actually go back to when the origins of these negative thought loops that we all have, limiting beliefs, patterns of thought, ancestrally inherited dynamics, we can go back to their origin and start to heal those experiences in a way that is most nourishing to the client. So does that help?
Yes.
Or I can give more. I just don't want to give too much.
So under hypnosis, you're able to access this unknown subconscious, the unseen, unfelt, unacknowledged part of our mind, and find old weeds and pluck them. And
exactly.
So you're doing the same thing that I'm teaching, only instead of having to every day, oh, I'm reprogramming this, oh, I'm reprogramming, you can do it a lot faster. It's like you're getting right to the root of things using only the hypnotherapy tools. And of course, I know that you coach daily changes in habits and changes of thoughts also.
Sure. Yes.
That hypnosis gives you a big head start.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful as a baseline tool. So I put it as healing the past, pivoting in the present, and revisioning the future. So it allows a person to kind of own their experience in a way that is more empowering. And it's so perceptually based. And I think that we're moving out of an era where people have been taught that your personality is your personality and it's set in stone, and who you are and who you're going to be is basically formed and static and concretized. And that's absolutely untrue. However, if you're not cool with that perception, it's not going to change, because if that doesn't resonate with your belief system, it's not going to change, and that's okay. So this work is for people who don't resonate with that model and who don't feel like they want to just stay the being that they came in being. And so it's very freeing for people who are like, I just like this part of my personality or this thing that I do is so not what I want to be doing. Is there a way to change this? And it's like, there is. And there's hope for people like that, because transformation is possible on the physical level. We know that through exercise. It's on the mental level. We can learn through, effort in that way or focus in that way. Emotional level, and this work is very powerful for the emotional aspect of ourselves, because we can gain more insight and heal and become more resilient through this work. And resilience is really everything, right? Like how you think about your life and frame it in your subconscious mind is how it's going to play out. So if you think you're a fragile person and you can't handle much adversity, you're not going to be able to handle much adversity. But if you go through adversity with the mindset of, this is all part of my journey and I'm going to learn everything that I can from it and continue to grow, it's going to create an entirely different trajectory in your life.
Fascinating. I have people running through my head, that not clients in particular, because clients usually when they come to me, they're ready. They're, like, okay, I know that life can be different. I know that I can be different and I'm ready. But people that I love are mired in self-doubt, mired in
Sure.
And
the old story.
Yeah. An old story of feeling unworthy, of feeling like a failure, of saying, well, I've tried to be different and I can't.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that I would just love to scoop up in my arms and bring them to you and say, Nora, help.
Well, and that's a really amazing point. And we all know these people, right? We all have access to these people, and, heart-centered entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, wellness practitioners, all, have that experience, even people who aren't in the wellness field. But the good news, I would say, could be frustrating to some, but the good news about hypnotherapy is if a person isn't ready, it's not going to work. It will not work. And you could make the argument, because there are people who have utilized NLP and subconscious reprogramming of any sort, including hypnotherapy, to manipulate in a negative way. What we find is you have to be willing to agree to it. And, integrity is everything. So I'll just say as an important point. So when you're going to work with a hypnotherapist or a coach or anyone, you have to feel that their integrity is solid. And we can't always know. So it's not to blame anyone who has been manipulated in the past. It's just people who are client-centered are going to give you the power to decide what's important for you to work with, and then work with you on that level, and not try to guide you in a way that doesn't feel resonant is what I mean. But so to your point, there are people through this work that I've discovered that aren't necessarily here for the same reason that you or I are here. And sometimes even people are in our lives to play very critical roles of contrast for us, so that we can have the experience of knowing what it's like to have people who are on board with this work and people who are not. And to have compassion for people wherever they're at is really, I think, the journey. That's how I interpret it anyway, is to just let them be where they're at. Because in this work, there's something called secondary gains. If a client comes to me and says, I want to quit smoking cigarettes, and we go through the process, they say they're really ready, but then they don't end up quitting. So I could say it's my fault. And if I've done a good job, I'm obviously not going to feel like I've done something wrong. But if a person's not fully ready to quit smoking, or just drug use, alcohol use, anything that is like a persistent addictive habit, if they're not really ready to totally make that shift, you can't make them do it. And so there are secondary gains to having a perception that keeps us limited, and I want to say small, but that's also kind of a judgment. So in my life, I've made choices that I wouldn't make now, that were in the past things that I feel like kept me small. And so my goal is always to evolve. But I don't think that's everyone's goal, you know?
No,
And they have reasons for it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And this is something that I go back to all the time, that I keep wanting to fix the world, to help people who are not asking for my help and thinking that I know what's best for them. And so thank you for that reminder that everybody has their own path, even if it doesn't look like, the path that I would choose for them. It's not up to me to choose their path.
Yeah.
It's
So true. And I think we always need reminders. And one of my biggest teachers was my dad, who passed in 2003 of kidney cancer at the age of 60.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was training to be a hypnotherapist in a past life regression demo, I was the demo client in the training. My father came through and basically downloaded me with the reason that he had left, because I was so heartbroken, of course, that he would die so young. And he showed me, like, I felt the experience of him explaining to me that that was the agreement he made coming in, and that he knew he was choosing a life that he would be dying at a younger age, and that he signed on for it. He described it as taking one for the team. Described getting ill and dying so that me and my siblings and my mom and everyone, his wife at the time, everybody could have the experience of going through that illness with him, and him passing, and all that is entailed with it. And that was incredible for me to experience, to be told, that was something that he agreed to do, which also means that my soul on some level knew that too, that I was going into a lifetime knowing that part of the experience was to be losing my father. Totally didn't know that at all, because when I found out, it was the most devastating thing I had ever heard. But there's something really elegant to me about knowing that these really challenging experiences in life have broader meaning if we allow it to. And I think victimhood is a common, it's an understandable place to feel like around trauma experiences. I think if we stay in that place of victimhood, then it's a missed opportunity for soul growth. Doesn't mean it's a failing at all. I know people, and probably many of you who are paying attention to this podcast, have people that they've lost due to suicide or drug addiction or whatever. And it's like, what is the point? What a waste. And I would just challenge that notion as a very significant and important thing that was very likely agreed upon by the souls involved that were most touched by it. It's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, but for me, it's nourishing because it allows me to make sense of things that would otherwise not make sense.
That's so interesting. I recently lost my brother just last year, and
Oh, so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, and then it's very difficult for me, but much more difficult for his wife, who she's, he was in her life every
Sure.
moment, and her total world, and I hope that she'll listen to this and get benefit from it. So let me ask another question about, do you come into conflicts with other spiritual, like people feel like this whole process of hypnotherapy and past lives and regression is against their particular spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs? Does that?
That can happen. There are a couple things. If a person is an atheist, like they believe that there's nothing spiritually going on at all, that is contraindicated to hypnotherapy, the kind that I do, transpersonal hypnotherapy. You could do direct suggestion based hypnotherapy, but when you start looking at what is consciousness, it's really hard to parse out an earthly an earthly explanation that doesn't include more of an etheric or existential metaphysical component.
Right.
And so I've only seen one client that was an atheist that was willing to give it a shot. And sure enough, it was just blocked because it was like, I can't go there. Right.
How can you go somewhere that you don't believe exists?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, sort of old school hypnotherapy or NLP is probably more, like that kind of reprogramming can happen. But if you want deep change on a soul level, this is the kind of work that is really powerful and fun. I think it's fun because you're learning so much more about who you are and what your potential is than the context of this life provides.
Right.
And so that's really freeing and magical, I think. So I don't know, did I answer your question?
More or less. Well, you partly answered it. So an atheist doesn't believe that there is a spirit world at
Right.
all isn't going to work out. But so what if
So like an agnostic person.
or like a very fundamental religion?
Oh, I love working with people who have fundamental, well, I wouldn't say fundamental, but people who, if you're in a fundamental church, you're probably not going to be coming to a hypnotherapist like me. But if you have like an interest on a mystical level in that religion, for sure. But I find Christians in particular, because I'm in the Bible Belt, have no problem at all. And I don't have a problem with that either, because whoever they connect with on a spiritual level is their support team. And they can draw upon that as a resource to create the container for a powerful spiritual experience. So often when I have Christian clients who identify with Christianity, I just tell them if there's something that I'm saying that doesn't resonate with them, just let me know, and that I may have blind spots, but please don't take it as something that's disrespectful. I sort of get that out of the way. But also I ask them who is their go-to, because if you're Catholic, you might connect with Mother Mary more than Christ.
Right.
But in a lot of the Christian faiths that are more, I guess, New Testament, people will connect with Jesus. And Christians are always hanging out with Jesus anyway. Like Jesus is always around and observing. And so it's a wonderful stepping stone into them trusting that the access that they're reaching is of the highest for them, the highest benefit for them. And it's not anything dark or sinister. And so that creates a lot of trust, where they can start to not only trust me, but trust the information that's flowing to them as their own and of God, which is, it makes all the difference, right?
Right.
If you know that it's streaming from the divine, you're good.
Right, you're good. This is Romeo.
Hi, Romeo. You're so handsome.
He's such a sweet guy. He's a big guy. Okay, so how have these times affected your work? Do you need to be in person with your clients, or
Not at
how
all.
do you? Okay.
My business is thriving right now. And I think a lot of it is because people are having a lot of stress. And we can talk about that, since it's sort of, from chaos to calm, inner calm.
Inner calm, right?
Yeah, inner clarity and inner calm. So people are having a lot of anxiousness, fear, stress, understandably. And so I do meet with people in my office, and I socially distance, and we meet in masks. And then when we are settled, clients will often remove their mask, because the hypnotic experience, when you have a mask on, it can be a little triggering to the breath. And part of the relaxation process is to start to become aware of sensations in the body, like breath. So I take my my physical health very seriously, and I and I take their health very seriously too. So a lot of people are missing that one-on-one face-to-face contact. So I find that there's a lot of nourishment that happens in the face-to-face, but then I have clients who are not at all feeling comfortable meeting in person. And so we do virtual sessions, and all of the sessions that I offer are available virtually. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what are some things that in your as a coach, give us some tips that we can do by ourselves, and then we're going to talk about how to get in touch with you, and if anybody's interested in working further with you. What can we do right here at home today?
There's so much that you can do. And so one of the things that I'm having fun with is I do groups from time to time. And one of the groups that I'm planning for is one that's coming up. We haven't set the date, it's probably starting in December, but it's mind yoga is what I call the group. And so having awareness of your outer senses is very important. So just the basic senses that we use every day, sight, sound, hearing, taste, smell. But we also have inner senses that I don't know if we know, but we don't give as much sort of clarity to. And so we also have inner vision, we have inner knowing, we have intuition, we have instinct, we have inspiration, and we also have inner feeling and inner hearing. And I think I mentioned inner vision. So that's like clairvoyant vision, or also being able to envision your future, or see clearly in terms of moving through confusion. So just honoring that we are more than just our outer senses. We have a conglomeration of a nice little personal recipe of these different attributes too. And so part of what strengthens a person's ability to become resilient is to have a sense of what senses you work with best. So for example, some people may be inner seeing very well, like a clairvoyant person, or someone who, like a designer, somebody who's an artist, can close their eyes and, I forgot to mention imagination, super big, can't miss that one. So colors, vivid colors and shapes and designs. If you're that person, you have more of a clairvoyant connection with your inner world. Maybe not necessarily more, but you could also be a clairaudient or inner hearing person, listening to words, hearing prompts that are auditory, but it's not coming from outside. You're actually getting, and I'm a very clairaudient person. So I'll hear words, I'll hear people talking to me. uh, my guides will talk to me, but I am also clairvoyant in that I see my guides. I see them being very playful and tease me. My guides have a very goofy sense of humor, which is awesome because I'm very goofy as well. Some people just have knowledge that just drops in as knowing. It's like, no, I know that. And you'll feel that in your solar plexus. You'll feel that so whatever information you're getting, you're also going to get a physical sensation that matches that. So one of the things that a person can start to do is start to tune into the cues that they're already receiving as data, internal data, inner wisdom that's coming through, and start to pinpoint sensations and start to create the symbolic language that you are experiencing and translate it so that when you get, so I always tell the story, someone that I did a workshop with told me that she could tell when people were lying to her because she said that this old woman would clank big pots in her left awareness over here. So this sort of witchy old woman energy would just clank this, like, so she's hearing internally these loud pots banging together. And that to her that's not a subtle cue. That's like, and so many people think that this work is very subtle to become a medium or to become clairvoyant. We're already hardwired to have all of this happen, and how your sort of wiring is distributed is different for each person. Just how, I'm not like, I'm better at geometry than I am at algebra, or I think big picture as opposed to finite details. And there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's just, what are the components that work best for you? And then start working with them, playing with that, getting into the space of getting yourself familiar, keeping a journal about it, tuning in every day, setting intention. And then when it deals with stress, a really quick tool is to start to think of stress versus distress. So if you are, what we're finding in the empirical scientific community, and there's a great book by Kelly McGonigal about it's called The Upside of Stress, and it talks about the scientific data that's coming through about this. And the idea is that stress in and of itself is not bad. It's how we perceive it that is what dictates how stress is going to affect us. So if you have a disempowered interpretation of stress and are stressed by everything, because if you think about it, we consider stress everything from like, I don't have the correct creamer for my coffee today, versus I am, my mother is dying, right? Like, so it's all in one big basket. And so if you interpret, the loss of a loved one in the same realm as the creamer that you put in your coffee not being there, that's a wide swath of stress. And so I think I'm starting to get more familiar with what causes you distress, because again, it's not a good or a bad, right or a wrong. It's more, is there a way of seeing stress in a way that is more empowering to me and helps me to become more effective and empowered in my life? Because we don't want things that we don't want the issues in life to totally disrupt us and bring us to our knees. We want to have the tools to move through difficult experiences with grace and get to the good stuff. And so by starting to identify where you are in terms of how you deal with stress and start to own that, you can start to make headway into moving towards more resilience. And there's, creating an environment where your mental health and wellness is important to you is essential. Your well-being is everything, because if you're not well, the people in your family aren't going to be well, because they're going to be affected by your stress, and it has a cascading negative effect. So you want to have a cascading positive effect by taking care of yourself. And that can happen with meditation. It can happen with movement and envisioning in the morning, and affirmations. There are so many tools out there that a person can participate in that don't need to take a lot of time, that will make the difference between a life that is bringing you to your knees or a life that is thriving.
Right. And even just making up your mind that, okay, this stressful situation is just a thing that will give me a chance to learn something, will give me a chance to grow. And just the way that if you say, well, stress isn't bad, it's just a thing, as opposed to, oh my God, the stress is going to kill me. That,
Right.
just even that one little switch that will.
It's a little switch that is everything. I
Yeah.
mean, they even find that having a negative perception of stress will take an average of 8 years off of your life.
Mhm.
So, and we don't want to just live long lives. We want to live healthy, happy, joyful lives,
Vibrant.
thriving
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah,
Yeah, vibrant lives.
Yeah.
They also find that if you believe that you're going to be degrading in health and quality of life as you age, guess what?
You do.
That happens. Yeah. So it's all mindset.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so wherever you're watching this video or listening to the podcast, if you look down, we're going to give you all the links that you can click on to get to Nora and learn more about her, look at her classes, look at her coaching, look at her, getting her as a therapist, all the stuff. Every way to get in touch with her, we will provide for you. Let's say I wanted to ask you one other question before we wrap up. Oh, what about, I have heard that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, that if you're not an active participant in the process, that it's not going to happen. Is that true? Or is that?
In client-centered work, yes. Okay. What I will also say is, I have to tread lightly because there are, I was just watching this documentary on the NXIVM thing where, cults use hypnotic techniques to manipulate minds. So what I'll say is that there are bad actors out there that are doing negative stuff with hypnotic techniques. And you have to really use your discernment when you're working with somebody. That being said, in my work, yes. So when it comes to a first session and a person who may not have any experience with hypnotherapy, often I'll take them through a body relaxation process, or like a shavasana in a yoga class, like a nidra style body relaxation. And then we'll get to a point where it may seem like they're not totally relaxed. So I'll check in with them to see where they're at in terms of relaxation. And then I'll give them the reins and say, so just know that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and I need them to have buy-in so that they can start to take ownership of their experience, which is empowering ultimately, because it sets the stage for the work ahead. And so I ask them to start bringing themselves down. So that, like, if a person on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being wide awake and 1 being close to comatose, where are you? And people who are not totally relaxed will say, oh, 7. Where, say I'm at a 7. And so, okay, go ahead and take a nice deep breath and bring yourself down to 6 now. And that's a learning experience for people. It's like, oh, she's not going to wave a magic wand and just make me pass out. Right. Nope. Contrary to popular belief, you're not going to be like you're under anesthesia. You're going to be awake and alert and aware, but your body is going to be rested. And that creates that magical combination of elements where your consciousness can expand and and the mental mind can get out of the way. And then the broader self can really have its time to have the natural, nourishing, healing opportunity that your being is ready for you to have. It's just flowing and streaming out of you. It's just, this is how you can access that in real time.
Awesome.
So okay. Long answer of yes and no of the all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I'd say that yes and no.
Okay, so I'm not, we could talk all day, but we're almost out of time. So my final question is there any benefit in, of course there is benefit. How much benefit is there in self-hypnosis? If
It's wonderful. I'll train clients how to self-hypnotize, to support them if there's something that they're really having a tricky time with, in between sessions. And again, that just puts puts the tools right in their hands.
Okay, awesome. So you can get in touch with Nora and let her hypnotize you, or let her teach you how to hypnotize yourself, or any combination.
Yeah, I train people how to do this particular type of hypnotherapy.
And so that was, I'm glad you said that. So you are actually teaching people to be hypnotherapists and have their own practice?
Yes, so I certify hypnotherapists. So if and my target market for those kinds of for this kind of work are people who are already in the healing arts, alternative wellness practitioners, coaches, healers, shamans. They're so perfectly poised to have this greater frame to do work within. Yeah.
That I'm totally kidding. I saw that on the materials we were exchanging. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look into that because I think that would be fascinating to learn and an awesome, helpful tool to have. So, all right.
Awesome.
Yay.
Love to have you.
All right. So again, look below to tell us your website just in case.
Sure. It's younghypnotherapy.com, but you can also get to it from NoraYollesYoung.com. Yolles is a little tricky. It's YOLLES. NoraYollesYoung.com or Young Hypnotherapy. Same website. I'm in the process of updating it. So if there's something there that you don't see, you can contact me through email.
Okay.
And I have a free download there. So go check it out.
Yay. Free gifts. We love them. All right.
Yay.
So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Lauren Foster.
Awesome. We will totally stay in touch. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I don't know how to end the broadcast without ending the call. So it's going to feel like I hung up on you, but I didn't.
Okay. Good to know. I would be sad.
Yes, I will definitely be in touch with you with all the links so you can share this awesome show with all of your people. And we're just so grateful that you are here.
Oh, I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity. Thank you so much, Lauren. It's been a ball.
Thank you. And I'm going to be back next week by myself for a special Thanksgiving edition of the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom show. So I hope you will join me. We're going to talk about gratitude and celebration and appreciation and love and all of those awesome things. So in the meantime, remember that happiness is a choice and you can always choose to be happy first. I'll see you next week.
Bye.